The one thing that I can say at the very beginning of the podcast, though, the one thing that I really appreciated the most was the way Liz Cheney kept saying, the evidence will show. The evidence will show. That's what prosecutors say when they are making a case to put some rotten son of a bitch in prison for the rest of the rotten son of a bitch's life, right? And that's what this is about. That's what these hearings are about, ostensibly to let the American public know what a criminal piece of shit Donald Trump is and what he tried to do, what he orchestrated. You know, he's such a weasel. It's always somebody else's fault, right? But that's what this hearing is about. It's to let the Justice Department know, along with the American public, that we have in the persona of Donald Trump, the worst criminal this country has ever known because he's tried to destroy this country. The Orange Vomit already made his filthy little statement a few hours after the committee laid out the evidence that this was Donald Trump's gig, Donald Trump's organizing, Donald Trump's orchestrating, Donald Trump's trying to do every goddamn thing he could to pervert the Constitution, pervert the rule of law even further than the worthless bastard has done all of his life. After all of the evidence, well, not evidence so much last night, but all the opening statements, which is what this was. This is a trial, folks. After all the opening statements, the Orange Vomit crawled out of his crawl space and lashed out at the presentation last night. He made some posts on his sewer media platform, Truth Social, and denied that he had anything to do with it. Of course. He wrote this, quote, "The so-called rush on the Capitol was not caused by me. It was caused by a rigged and stolen election." God damn this guy. He also went after, as to be expected, former Attorney General and half-witted moron William Barr, who was shown on video in depositions testifying, well, not depositions, but testifying to the bipartisan committee, that he had told Trump repeatedly that Trump's election fraud claims were, quote, bullshit, end quote. And what did the Orange Vomit have to say about this? Well, this is what he said, quote, "Bill Barr was a weak and frightened attorney general who was always being played and threatened by the Democrats and was scared stiff of being impeached. How do you not get impeached? Do nothing or say nothing, especially about the obviously rigged and stolen election. The Democrats hit pay dirt with Barr. He was stupid, ridiculously said there was no problem with the election, and they left him alone." End quote. What? I mean, this is what this pissant half a human, this filthy pig Donald Trump, he always goes after people and says they're cowards, right? They're cowards, or they're weak, or they're frightened. You know, absolutely projecting what he is. He is the most cowardly son of a bitch ever. Ever. And in another post, the Orange Vomit again referred to Barr as a coward who had refused to investigate the Orange Vomit's claims of rampant fraud in Philadelphia. Jesus Christ. Oh. And the Orange Vomit, of course, disputed what Liz Cheney said, the committee's vice chair. She said that testimony from his aides, and this is going to be the interesting part this week coming, people who worked around this filthy pig, will show that Trump was not the least bit concerned that his supporters were threatening Mike Pence's life. And according to Cheney, when Trump learned that they were chanting "Hang Mike Pence," he said to the assholes in the room with him, "Oh, maybe our supporters have the right idea. Pence deserves it." Pence deserves it. Well, now to that, Trump issued one of his weaselly, slimy, greasy denials. He said, "I never said hang Mike Pence." No one said you did, asshole. This is either a made-up story, somebody looking to become a star, or fake news. No, nobody said you said, hang Mike Pence, you disgusting pig. Oh, my God, I hate this guy. And I'll tell you, last night, I sat and watched, and when the female officer, Carolyn Edwards, when she was giving her accounting of what happened, and the camera occasionally panned to some of the relatives, Officer Sicknick's wife and a few other people. I mean, I sat there and could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, and I just let them flow. I mean, I'm watching testimony about a son of a bitch who should be hanged, Donald Trump. He should be hanged by his filthy fat neck until he can't breathe anymore, after a fair trial, of course, and a guilty verdict. But I sat there watching testimony of people who struggled to defend this country against this filthy goddamn Donald Trump. And I'm not going to mince words. If you're a regular listener to this podcast, you know damn good and well that, I will say exactly what I'm feeling. And what I'm feeling is that Trump, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. He should be given all the protections of the U.S. Constitution. And if found guilty of whatever he's charged with, if it's a crime punishable by life in prison without parole, then that's where this filthy pig should spend the rest of his useless life. I would sentence him to death by hanging. But of course, I don't have that power. But I sat there and watched, and I listened. I think Benny Thompson ought to turn it over more to Liz Cheney, because Liz Cheney, I don't believe I'm saying this, up until a few months ago, Liz Cheney was on my Christian fascist list, right? You know that. Oh, God. This whole thing is just turning me inside out in some of my political attitudes. It's only temporary. When this is all over and Liz Cheney goes back to being a member of the U.S. House, she's going to continue to vote against the best interests of most of the people in this country. I understand that. But watching and listening to her last night, I just kept thinking, Representative Cheney, why couldn't you be a Democrat? Why do you have to? I think Liz Cheney is still a Republican. I don't think she's a fascist Christian, not yet. But I wanted to say, why do you have to align yourself in a political party that is a rotting goddamn corpse? It's full of maggots. There's shit dropping off the body of the Republican Party, chunks of dead and decaying flesh. Why don't you leave that, Liz? Excuse me, Representative Cheney? I mean, her presentation was sterling. That's all I can say. So, this House committee had spent a year investigating what happened. And last night, with those video clips of the Orange Vomit's daughter and son-in-law and close aides, the committee began making its case that the assault was the violent culmination of an attempted coup engineered by this filthy son of a bitch, Donald Trump. The committee pinned the blame, of course, for the violence squarely on the pig, who knew he'd lost the 2020 election, but lied to the American people. And everybody, and that's what's going to come out now in the testimony. What's going to come out over the next 5 hearings is how everybody, including his own bastard children and bastard son-in-law, and all the filthy, slimy aides around him who were perfectly happy to continue to fuck over and defraud the American public. But they don't want to go to prison. So they kept saying to Trump, hey, none of this is true. You got to stop this. You got to stop this. It's all going to come out. And Trump knew, and the lying son of a bitch also knew, that the people who voted for him were dumber than dog shit. So he kept the lie going, as Hitler told him to do. The big lie, or was it Goebbels? I don't care. It was a Nazi idea tell a lie, a big lie, and keep saying it over and over. And this filthy goddamn Trump will be spewing this lie out when he's laying on his deathbed, sucking in his last breath of oxygen. That'll be a great day. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.